Hi everyone, I'm Caroline Hill. I'm Editor-in-Chief of Legal IT Insider, and I'm here on the Insider on Literary TV with Stephanie Barrett. Hi Stephanie.
Hi Caroline.
Stephanie's Head of E-Discovery and Legal Technology within Herbert Smith Freehill's ALT, which is their Alternative Legal Services division. And we are here to talk about a number of things actually, but we're talking about just today. It won't be today as you're watching this, but today on the 10th of March as we're recording this, Herbert Smith Freehills has just announced a new cloud platform with Epic, which we're going to probably focus on, but we're also going to have a look at the development of the Alternative Legal Services division and perhaps some trends in the market. Before we go on to it, so Stephanie, tell us a bit more about, so you were at Navigant before, and before that you were Slaughter and May. Tell us more about your role and also a bit more about ALT for people who aren't familiar with it.
Sure. So thanks for having me on. I joined Herbert Smith Freehills, it will be 3 years ago in August, and said I've been in the e-discovery industry for a very long time. I've sort of worked my way through, I think, as the industry has progressed along with technology and the legal framework changes. And my role at Herbert Smith Freehills has been really exciting within the alternative legal services practice. So I think often the sort of ALT team is well known for providing legal review services, but the e-discovery piece has been less sort of focused on. And when I joined at a very exciting time when we were focusing more on the e-discovery piece and legal technology. So my role within the firm, I'm responsible for the UK, US, EMEA region. We have teams in Belfast, London, and New York on this side of the world that support our e-discovery offering. And my role is really to manage the strategic initiatives and planning around how we should best be using legal technology to support our clients. Obviously, predominantly that will sit within the dispute space and the traditional e-discovery services that we provide, but also looking ahead at what client demand is likely to be, what our clients' pain points are, and really trying to be more proactive around how we can be using legal technology efficiently to support their needs.
Interesting. Okay. And because so with ALT, so I've written about ALT for a number of years. So it launched in 2011 in Belfast, didn't it? And it was document review. So when did they start? I know that there was a lot of talk around technology assisted review even quite a while ago. But tell me about how the e-discovery piece has evolved. When did they start? When did they create an e-discovery unit, as it were, first off?
Sure. So yes, you're right. Historically, we were very much document review and had our Belfast team starting back in 2011. And then in 2016, ALT became the sixth practice group within the firm. So it became a practice group in its own right. And at that point, it also made sense for the e-discovery team, which had always existed in HSF. There had always been an e-discovery function. Yeah. They also came to be part of ALT. And it made sense, really, for us to be connected to the legal review piece to really provide that end-to-end service. It was very interesting when I came into the role to see how the practice has evolved to really have e-discovery and legal review in partnership rather than in conflict with each other, and the fact that the technical solutions are there to assist with the legal review, whereas often there can be conflict in terms of if your structure is, well, we want to review 3 million documents, and you're working with a technology team that's going, well, we can cut that down by 70% if we use predictive coding and other analytical functions. Within our practice, the legal review team want that too, and we have incredibly experienced teams across our 11 hubs. We have now 350 people in ALT now, pretty much. They want to be using the technology too to make their review processes more efficient. So it really made sense for us to connect together, and to say it is now this full end-to-end service without that, oh, you go to e-discovery for this bit and then you come to document review for this bit. And I certainly found that really exciting, but also a little bit different from the norm when I first joined HSF. I thought that was a really collaborative way of doing things.
Definitely. And you know what, we'll come on, I hope we'll make sure that there's time to talk about the development of ALT in terms of what that means as to how you're delivering meeting the demands of clients and how you manage to achieve it. within the body of Herbert Smith Freehills, because one of my fascinations is the way that law firms are trying to develop alternative services, and a lot of the time they have to do it outside. But we'll come back to that. Let's talk about your cloud platform with Epic, which I know it's been quite a long time coming, hasn't it? Was it 18 months, 2 years, something like that? You've been working on it.
Yes, it was just really starting to get legs, I guess, when I joined in August 2018. So it's been, coming up to sort of 3 years really of sort of planning, and it was a very big project. So it's very exciting to be talking today, knowing that the cat's finally out of the bag and we're live with our new platform is really exciting.
So tell us more. So I've written about it. So you, it's a cloud. Well, Epic, obviously they moved into the cloud in 2019, but you've been working very much hand in hand in building your own platform, which unites. So you've got discovery centres, e-discovery centres across the globe, but this will help bring them together, won't it, in terms of being able to share data. Tell us more in terms of, I don't want to talk for you because this is your this is your baby. But actually, can I ask you to I'm interrupting myself now, to go step back. So you tell me about the beginning, because you were on different, all of your different centres were on different systems, different stages. Tell us how you started, because you started putting in place a roadmap, didn't you?
Yeah, that's right. So what we wanted to do to start off with was we were doing, which I think a lot of firms do, reviewing all of our technology, reviewing our infrastructure. And the move to cloud in and of itself is not particularly new, and a lot of people are looking to do that. And I think it's just the logical step that everyone's now taking. But when we were first looking at that, and looking at specifically for the UK in terms of wanting to move from our on-premise infrastructure into cloud, that was happening at the same time as us looking at where we could improve globally how we provide our e-discovery service. Because with legal review, we were doing that very successfully and that was working very well. E-discovery, we knew we could do better at really being able to offer that true sort of, follow the sun service for our clients, but to be able to do that consistently. We have at the moment around 45 e-discovery professionals within the alt service across London, New York and Australia. And we were working separately on a project which started when I joined, to streamline our processes, have proper standardized procedures. We wanted to put a ticketing system in place to really automate how we were handing work round. And what then became apparent was, if we're going to do that, we need a cloud platform that can also really support that global working piece. So it wasn't just about, I guess, the more obvious things of, well, scale, being able to support large data volumes. We thought, no, we need to be properly connected. And what then came through with our conversations with Epic, who we already had a very good relationship with in Australia, and we were really excited when we saw what they were going to do with cloud. They were really keen to actually work with us to say, well, we should design something together rather than just having something come in off the shelf to implement. And that was really exciting to all of us, that we could actually do something that really worked for our needs. And what then got born out of that was this sort of global cloud platform where we have our data centers in our different locations to obviously support, data sovereignty, jurisdiction points. But we've also been able to build this essentially a sort of global portal that sits on top of it, which means that wherever you are in the world, you can easily access our other data centers if you need to, but doing it in a really secure way and managing that data sovereignty and jurisdiction piece. So that means that for our e-discovery teams, it's not, a huge mission effectively. If you're then supporting a project in Australia, one day you were supporting a project coming from New York, another day, it's seamless. But also for our legal teams and for our clients, it's seamless. And if you think about, particularly since the pandemic hit, everyone having to work remotely, everyone being all over the place, you want to be able to support a seamless experience whilst also managing things from a security perspective, making sure that everyone knows where their data is, it's safe, but it doesn't feel like that when you're actually working in the platform. It's seamless. And that's where we've got to today, with the UK going live in that platform now. Australia and New York are gonna join us, and it's really exciting.
It's really exciting. So that must have been the security piece, I guess, was first and foremost, was it, in terms of, obviously you have to be so careful not to breach the various jurisdictional requirements. So was that something that Herbert Smith was working with, presumably you work both sides of you. I know ultimately Epic's providing the platform, and I guess I think the way you've described it is that, you know, you'll have this layer where people won't have to worry about the security, what's going on behind the scenes, which is absolutely right. But presumably there's been an awful lot of work to get to this point.
Yeah, and that was also what was fantastic about the design process, is it really has been this multidisciplinary team. So obviously working with Epic's cloud team, we had our team within Alt, IT, information security, our data protection team, members of our TMT practice. I mean, to say it took a village to get this in place is an understatement. But what that meant is that all the different elements of what we were trying to do were being considered before we actually put something in place. And it really has been designed around our requirements and how our teams work, because so we have alt hubs all over the world, but obviously Herbert Smith Freehills has a massive global footprint. We have offices in numerous different locations, and we really wanted to be able to support that, whilst obviously security and data sovereignty being paramount.
Yeah, it's interesting because we won't go too much down this rabbit hole because I want to focus on the platform, but it's interesting when you were talking about designing it, there's a big trend now towards not doing too much work, towards not customizing, towards, you know, towards taking stuff much more out of the box. But I suppose with this sort of thing, that's just not feasible, is it? In terms of, you know, do you know what I mean? That was the first thing that occurred to me was, you know, it's very much what your excitement was around the design and the working on it. When a lot of people are saying you shouldn't customize, it should be very straightforward, and law firms have a habit of tweaking and making things so that they're so complex. But I guess in this case it was essential to do that, and that was one of the reasons why you decided to go with Epic, obviously.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, because I think you're right, there is a real, it's interesting what's going on in the industry generally at the moment. As you say, there is that sort of one route you can go down where everything is incredibly streamlined and very consistent, and yet you literally take it off the shelf, put it in, and that's done. And I think for certain firms, that's probably absolutely the right thing to do for their requirements. I think for us, given the size of the alt team, the type of work that we support, the clients that we support, but also the skill set that we've got within our team, we wanted to be able to play around with stuff a bit more, quite frankly, and have that flexibility to be able to change what we were doing, what tech we were doing, how we're supporting our clients, because that's what they expect of us. We're challenged a lot, quite rightly, by our clients on how we should be supporting them, and we wanted to be able to think outside the box with that.
So now tell me, so it means so relativity, Epic is tech agnostic, and they already work with relativity, they work with BrainSpace, they work with NextLP. And I know one of the things that you're looking at, and it's interesting, you've obviously, your title is specifically legal tech, you're looking to create, I think you've described it as a toolkit, is that right? So tell me more about what your plan is to sort of spread the net further, but to create a global toolkit that people are using. Tell me more about.
That's right. So obviously, yes, relativity is the main tool that we use and will continue to use. But we wanted to be able to, as you say, have that option to flex depending on what our clients' needs are, but that is also globally consistent. So whenever a new piece of technology is required, it just doesn't just come in for that region, it comes in for everybody. So wherever you are in the world, we have access to that tech. Obviously, disputes is our bread and butter, but even within the alternative legal services practice, we do support other sectors. So we do transactional work. We support contract review. We support, we're moving into supporting a lot of claims management work, for example, repapering exercises. And where my role sort of evolved from when I first joined, of the sort of and legal technology going on to my title, is because we wanted to be involved in supporting that type of work as well, and using tech in the right way for perhaps the less familiar, I guess, type of work for what we would normally do. And whether that is using the technology we already have and just using it in a really smart way, or whether it is exploring investing in different pieces of technology. And if we do want to do that, it makes sense for our e-discovery and legal technology team to manage that process, because again, the skill set we have within our teams, we're able to do more than just support, say, a relativity or a NUIX environment. we're there to help with workflow. We're there to help with driving efficiency. We're there to help with testing technology to make sure it's the right thing for the task. And so that's also been certainly a very exciting part of my role, is being able to broaden that reach. Has been great.
Yes, and so in terms of adoption, having more clarity around having a defined toolkit and having, it's interesting, isn't it? I mean, that's another entire conversation, but in order to encourage adoption, I think you have to be clear. Firms have to be clear and be promoting, and be clear themselves, actually. And make it very easy to sort of access it. That all of those kind of very obvious things, I guess, fall into consideration. And it's interesting using the toolkit, because I've heard that used before at other firms where they're trying to do that.
Yeah, that's right. And just to be able to, I guess, demonstrate that we're not necessarily locked in terms of how we do things, I think is important. I think in terms of the say the obligations we have to our clients and demands that they're putting on us, quite rightly, in terms of, well, we want you to be efficient, we want you to innovate. How are you going to support us in this way? What are you going to do? What do you think we should be doing in order to support these things more effectively? I think by demonstrating our ability to flex and not sort of position a solution to a client that works for us, because that's how we've set ourselves up. No, we've set ourselves up so that we can implement the solutions that work for you. And through being able to develop this toolkit, I think it just demonstrates that we're much more open to finding the right solution for the right task, rather than always just doing that one size fits all approach. Personally, I think that's the right way to approach it.
No, absolutely. So in terms of, I'm just thinking about what I haven't asked you about, because I want to make sure I leave time to talk about Alt more generally and how it fits in. But the UK is the first stage, as we've already said, with the Epic platform. And as you said, you've got centres in Australia, e-discovery operations in Australia, New York, London, and Belfast. Yes. So after the UK, you're going to they're sort of, I must come back to ticketing. Mustn't forget that. They're going to progressively go online. Is that right? How's that going to work?
Yeah, so now the UK are in, and we're in the sort of target state design, as we've referred to it. We now hand the baton over to Australia, who will then hand the baton over to New York, and all of that will happen this year. So over the course of the next few months, we will then get to the point where we're seamless. Yeah. And then after that, who knows? This is the other great thing about cloud. We can then explore other options, other locations, if we think there's client demand. But also, another piece of why we were really keen to go this route is client demand. If there are data locations where the data can't come out, it needs to stay in country. We're now in a position where we can support that if we need to, and spin up new data centers if required, and then take them down. Again, that flexibility point being really important.
Really interesting. And then in terms of the ticketing, so I was really interested to read that, and because we haven't had a chance to talk about that. So what you're effectively doing, because you'll be in one platform. What you're able to now introduce is effectively workflow. Is that right? And sort of then potentially analytics. So tell me about how the ticketing will work.
So what we wanted to do when we mapped out our global processes and to make those streamlined, so now our teams work consistently. One of the other, I guess, challenges that we really wanted to implement an innovative solution to was handing that work round, because like with all of these things, technology is part of it, but I hate to use the cliche term people process technology, but obviously technology is part of it, but you need the people, and you do need the processes in order to make it work effectively. So we wanted to do something innovative in terms of how we hand that work round. So we started quite small with a pilot, and again, it's something we can build on, but we wanted to look at the type of tasks where actually it is much more efficient to just have tickets being raised, and then people can proactively go in and grab work, depending on the region, depending on the matter that's being passed around. So we decided to take a similar approach to what already happens with our help desks and IT systems. So it's a ServiceNow ticketing system, and we've built forms out that are then filled in, and the work can then easily be passed around. But also, crucially, what we have in addition to that is tracking. So it's very easy for us to have a clear audit trail of how work is being run. Ultimately, where that could go, we're also very keen to look at how efficiently work is being done. And by having this tracking system in place, we're really able to see where we are driving efficiencies, but perhaps where certain workflows need to be amended because they're not working as well. So that has started now as well. That's something that we're going to continue to develop over time. But part of that follow the sun model that we wanted to put in place, this really just adds an extra layer of efficiency on top of that, which I think was also a pretty innovative process for us to put in place. We're quite excited about that as well.
I'm not surprised. No, I mean it's one of these no-brainer things that law firms are terrible at, being perfectly frank. And so and makes so much sense. And then presumably, I mean, I know it's really early days, but presumably, I know Epic's quite proud of the analytics capability, and presumably that has the potential to feed into sorts of pricing and all that kind of stuff. Is that the plan? Are you able to speak a little bit to that, albeit that it's early days?
Yeah, I think so. Obviously, as you say, it's early days, but I think this really is just the beginning, I think, of where ultimately we can take this. And again, because we've designed this in partnership with Epic, it means we do have the opportunities now to look ahead to, okay, actually, I think it really would be good if we could add things in around, pricing, different areas of driving efficiency, tracking, reporting. And because of the way we've designed our platform, we have the options to do that. But yeah, I'm gonna let sort of today wash over me before they'll kill me if I suddenly start coming up with other ideas for what we can do. But no, absolutely. Again, that's the whole reason why we wanted to design something ourselves, is because then we're in the driving seat of where we can take this, obviously in partnership with Epic, but it's a joint baby. So it means we're in the position to take it forward.
Feedback to clients. There's all sorts of data that you could use eventually, in terms of intelligence that you can feed back to the clients on top of the existing, on top of the actual the day job, as it were.
Yeah, exactly. And I think what's quite exciting is that, again, historically, that's something that's been more common in the review space in terms of looking at driving efficiencies, pace, being able to track accuracy, how well things are going. It's almost taking that model and applying it in these other sectors. So whether it is just the traditional bread and butter discovery, which we will always do and which we will continue to do very well, or whether it is moving into these more niche areas where we are using slightly different tech and really being able to see how well that performs and how well we're supporting our clients in those spaces.
Okay, so let's talk about alt. So it's as I started off saying, what's really interesting is that you were one of the first firms to actually create, if not the first firm to create, an alternative legal services bit in Belfast. And you've always kept it within, Hampstead has kept it, Freehills has kept it within the body of the firm, whereas a lot of other firms have had to create tech arms, because, and there's lots of different reasons for that, as everyone knows, is that, it's to do with protecting it, it's to do with the billable hour in many cases, it's to do with, because often alternative legal offerings don't use a billable hour, can't use a billable hour, it's kind of to make sure that there's a separate offering and to keep it protected almost, and all sorts of different reasons. But you've always, so tell me about, so how does it, how is Herbsmith, do you think, Herbsmith Freehills able to keep it within the firm? And then I'll be curious as to sort of how you see it developing in terms of meeting client demand. But how have you managed to keep it internally?
Yeah, I think if you think about how much we've grown, as you say, we started as a very small team in Belfast back in 2011, and how far we've advanced. I think it sort of stayed within Herbsmith Freehills, I think, through the proof of the success and the level of high quality work that we're able to provide, but also just it's always been the way that our team has been structured, is that it's not naturally sat within one of those sort of LPO models, or always being that sort of cost focused, low cost center model. And if you think about where we are now as a practice in our own right, which we became in 2016, the 350 odd employees we have, 95% of them are fee earners, but also over 100 of them are actually qualified lawyers. And that's some sit within the e-discovery team. Obviously, the majority sit within legal review. And I think where our model has always been very successful is again, that sort of seamlessness. If you're coming to Herbert Smith Freehills, all of this is part of the package, rather than, again, it being that sort of almost like broken up sections of, oh, you come to us for this bit, but then we go here for the tech, and then we go here for the legal review. It's a completely end-to-end process and single package. And I think for our clients, that's very attractive. Also, I think for ALT's credentials, and I think to show our skill set, the fact that we are part of the firm. So when you are engaging with Herbert Smith Freehills, anyone within the ALT practice is also a Herbert Smith Freehills employee. We're all full-time employees. We're all subject to the same employment rules and regulations as everybody else in the firm. I think that's also very attractive to our clients, to know that they're just coming to everything in one place. And with the technology, the e-discovery and legal technology team coming into that in sort of 2016 as well, I think it just shows the level of credentials that we have, but also the level of service that we're able to provide, and how much we've branched out. We're also, I mean, it's one of our taglines we often say to people is, it's not just doc review. We do a lot more than that, which I think has also been able to happen because we have stayed as part of Herbert Smith Freehills, and we've really moved from, I guess, potentially being more of a sort of reactive service to now much more of a proactive service, really engaging with clients directly, wanting to understand what they need from us. What are they looking for in an ALSP? How should we be responding to their pain points and their pressure points? I'm not sure how successfully we would be able to do that if we weren't part of the same firm, I think.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think you've obviously got a lot of management buy-in, and I think it's because in other firms there's real conflict between, and also, what's interesting, so HSF has got obviously there's no question over the brand, and what's interesting is that you're not so obsessed about, does this detract from our brand, because that if you didn't do the work internally, it goes elsewhere, and actually you can apply technology to do it more efficiently internally. Which brings me on to, I suppose, with the growth of e-discovery, what kind of fascinates me within the e-discovery world, and I sometimes feel like I'm not keeping enough on top of it, to be perfectly frank with you, is that so you are now doing, you're growing, you're effectively doing your own managed services offering, and what's really interesting is the shift, isn't there, between who is doing that work. So you've got obviously a lot of very well-known companies, vendors who offer managed services. You've got some corporate teams that do their own, a lot of their own e-discovery, and then you've got law firms. How do you see that? Is that, are you hearing from clients that there's a demand for you, aka a law firm, to do more, to provide more of that managed services offering? Where do you see that going?
I think so, yeah, and I think the demand generally from our clients at the moment, as I said before, is that piece around, so what are you doing? What are you doing to kind of move these things forward and to make our lives easier? But also that they want to come to the same place, so they're going to come to Herbert Smith Freehills for all of those things, not just for the legal services piece. And I think that seems like a sort of natural progression of really wanting to just go to a single entity for all of these things, rather than having to sort of, to your point, okay, we go here for this, we go here for this. And I think that's only going to continue if you think about the pressures that are on our clients in relation to driving down costs, driving down driving efficiencies, trying to sort of streamline their processes as much as possible. I think to be able to collaborate with a law firm, to be able to do all of those things and not just coming to them for the traditional legal services. I mean, I think for us, that's how we're responding to it, and that's what we think that's how we want to support our clients. I I think it is just going to be more of that, rather than it being this sort of disparate group of services. It is about trying to consolidate everything together. Sorry, that might be a bit of a rambly answer.
It's not a rambly answer. It's not. I mean, it's a fascinating market. There's so much consolidation, isn't there? Because, and obviously, I suppose one of the things that you are able to offer, which clients I've seen are now demanding, whether it be from a law firm or from another company, managed service offering, and they're demanding this global service, which kind of takes us, I guess, almost in conclusion, as we nearly at time, back to your follow the sun idea. That there, I think, whereas a few years ago the e-discovery market was quite fractured, and there were lots of different providers, and we've seen a lot of consolidation as clients, because of the nature of international litigation. They want one firm, one company to be able to take care of it, right? Because otherwise it becomes much more expensive, I guess.
Yes, yeah, I think that's right. And if you look at the, well, certainly in the, what you were saying earlier about sort of keeping track of what's going on in the industry, if you think about what's happening in the UK as well, with a lot of changes in court procedures, you know, we've had the pilot scheme in relation to disclosure and really wanting to drive down costs, but also using tech in an efficient way. We've got coming up in April the proposed changes to how witness statements are being taken, which I think is going to be a big shift for a lot of our disputes lawyers from how they've been doing things for the last sort of 15-20 years, and having to respond. And it's not just the law firms that are impacted by those changes. Obviously it's our clients as well, in terms of how they're obligated to respond to these different scenarios. And I think if there is that element of reassurance that we can provide, to be able to say, well, no, if you come to us, we are able to provide everything under one banner. And yes, obviously it sits under our brand of Herbert Smith Freehills, but also within the efficiencies that can give a client of knowing, okay, I'm just speaking to one entity and I'm getting all of these different areas of support. And also that's how Alt, being part of Herbert Smith Freehills and not being that separate entity, it's a collaborative team. When you're speaking to a legal team, you're also collaborating with Alt, and that's important.
Do you know what, we're gonna have to leave it there, but I think that's a good place to leave it. Thank you. I look forward to catching up with the line on the platform. But for now, Stephanie, thank you so much for chatting with me.
Thank you very much for having me. Thank you.